Okay, we are going to talk about the rhetorical appeals of persuasion. You may be familiar with them. You may have practiced analyzing them before. You may not have, and that's okay. That's why you're here today, to learn a little bit more about them. I absolutely love teaching these. I think they're so much fun to learn about. So, ancient philosopher Aristotle believed that there were 3 ways to persuade others effectively and successfully, and it's through the rhetorical appeals of persuasion of ethos, pathos, and logos. So let's go into those a little bit. But before we do, I want to remind you I recommend following along by clicking the link. You have access to this PowerPoint through a link. And if you can't find it, let me know, because I have video breaks, and I encourage you, I can't record the video while I'm talking, but I recommend you watch the videos during the video breaks to really get the interactiveness and practice what we're analyzing here in this lecture. So go ahead and pause this video and jump over to the video break in the link. And while you're watching these videos, this one is from Stephen King's It. If you have a fear of clowns, don't worry, you can skip to the next one. It's okay. It is the older one, but that one's creepier to me almost. But if you decide to watch this first video, I want you to think how one character persuades another character to do something. So just kind of think, you can write it down if you want, or just think on your own about how one character persuades another character. There's also another video that I'd like you to review if you're following along, and same thing, think how one character persuades another character to do something. When we persuade, we want our audience to take action about something or to think about something different. So think about that, pause this video, and when you jump back, we'll talk about it. So if you watch the 2 videos, the first one was from the original It TV movie. Kind of cheesy, kind of creepy in my opinion as well. In this scene, we had Pennywise, and he persuaded poor Georgie to listen to him and to go down into the drainage area with him. And how does he do it? Georgie doesn't want to listen at first, but unfortunately he finally listens. Kind of listens to Pennywise. He sticks around to listen to Pennywise the clown's message. How does Pennywise do it? What did you find? If you find something different than what I have here, please let me know. But Pennywise introduces himself, because at first Georgie doesn't want to listen to him. He says he's not supposed to talk to strangers, and Pennywise says, "It's okay, I'm Pennywise, and you're Georgie. Now we know each other. It's okay." So that's one way. He kind of establishes a common ground. He appeals to things that kids like. We have candies, balloons. There's lots of fun where I am down here. You should come too. So he knows his audience. He knows what kids like. He's creepy looking. He kind of sounds creepy, but he is kind of friendly at first. It gets more intense towards the end of that scene. But he does have a friendly tone, again, because he knows his audience. So Pennywise is a successful communicator, unfortunately, because he tricks Georgie to stick around and listen. He persuades Georgie to stay with him and hang out and float. Tommy Boy scene, favorite movie of all time. If y'all haven't seen it, I recommend it. It's great. Classic 90s comedy. This is a different scene. It's more of a comedy than the first scene. But at first the waitress does not want to put the wings on the fryer for him that he was trying to order. And he tells her this odd sales pitch. And she could easily have just walked away and not listened. She shows annoyance at first. She rolls her eyes and puts her notebook in her pocket and listens. But she starts listening, doesn't laugh at his story, but she changes her mind and says, "You know what, I'll go ahead and put the wings on the fryer even though the kitchen's closed." So he persuades her just to stick around and listen to his story and convinces her to take his order that she didn't want to take at first. And how does he do it so successfully? Well, again, he asks her name. He says, "What's your name?" She says, "Helen." And he says, "That's wonderful. You look like a Helen. Helen, this is what I do." So he establishes common ground again. Makes her feel welcomed. He uses humor in a very odd story, but just this distracts her from maybe her stress of waitressing all day. Maybe it's a way for her to escape for that few minutes. He uses humor. And again, a friendly tone. And all of these are successful because he persuades her to take his order by the end of the scene. So that's using persuasion by knowing your audience. So at the beginning of the lecture, we talked about the 3 rhetorical appeals: ethos, pathos, and logos. So I'm going to go into each one of these. And again, I recommend just keep following along with this PowerPoint, because I have a few other scenes that I recommend you review to correspond with what we're talking about here. So the first rhetorical appeal I want to talk about is ethos. Ethos is any of the following, but it could be just one of these. This is the majority of how you identify ethos when you're either analyzing something rhetorically with a rhetorical lens, or if you're trying to be persuasive. This is how you use ethos as a communicator and as a writer. Ethos are ethics, human morals, human values. Credibility or trustworthiness of the communicator. How do you want to prove that you're trustworthy? How do you want the audience to gain your trust? It could be through respect, through authority figures, confidence, having a clear plan, knowing what you're talking about and not showing any hesitation, having any type of professionalism, whether it's the way somebody's dressed, the way somebody acts, and the knowledge somebody shows. If you're not a professional, but using quotes from professionals or well-known people helps boost your ethos. Using good vocabulary, proving knowledge in the subject, even if you're not the expert, you've shown the audience that you've done your research. If you're in advertising, a well-known name or organization. If you think of Nike, what comes to mind? What image, what logo? The little swoosh probably comes to mind. So we see that, we have trust automatically because we know the label. Or if the audience or the communicator has gone through something to get to where they are now in success, using their personal experience of all the trials and tribulations and experiences that they've gone through is also using ethos. So these are all ways that a communicator uses ethos, and this is all ways to identify ethos if you're analyzing something. So take a video break. This is a great movie. I recommend watching it. This is a really perfect. In fact, to this day, I've yet to find something just as good. Think about how her character, Mona Lisa Vito, proves her ethos, proves her credibility to the prosecutor, because he doesn't believe her at first. He doubts her. So watch this video. Think about how she proves herself, how she proves her knowledge about what the scene is talking about. And go ahead and pause this video to watch the video break. So if you watched it, how does she prove her ethos? What goes on in this scene? Because the prosecutor does not believe that she understands what cars are and how they work. Well, first of all, she sounds confident. She shows no hesitation, no doubt in her entire answers on the stand. She uses specific words, specific jargon that prove her knowledge in automobiles. She uses a lot of language that I don't know about because I don't know anything about cars, unfortunately. So she uses vocabulary that is appropriate to that rhetorical situation. Now, she's not dressed to fit the role of a, quote, typical mechanic, because the prosecutor clearly has an idea in his head about what he thinks a mechanic should look and act like, and she doesn't fit that standard. So that shows you that dress code doesn't always prove knowledge. Knowledge in the subject holds a higher value. Understanding what you're talking about holds a higher value to prove ethos. So overall, those are ethos. That's how you determine ethos in communication. Pathos is the second emotional or rhetorical appeal that we will go over. Pathos is the emotions. It's the emotional appeal. Meaning, how does it make the audience feel? How do you want the audience to feel when you persuade? Or if you're analyzing something, what emotion are you feeling as the audience? So, certain words, if you're reading something or writing something that hint at emotion, happy, sad, excited, angry, whimsical, think of tone words. Certain colors can indicate emotion, especially if, say you're analyzing a music video and you want to determine what the emotion is there. The colors they use can determine a certain feeling. Black and white can sometimes be serious or nostalgic or sad. Bright colors could be a sense of excitement or warmth. Images that are included in something is also a form of emotion. It could be sound. Maybe soft piano music to some people might feel calm. Maybe it might feel depressing to others, but it is some type of emotional reaction, and just music in general. These are all different. So think about it in that way, that it's not always just words, it's so much more. So again, the video break, great movie, Castaway. Our beloved character Wilson, the volleyball, and his unfortunate departure into the depths of the ocean. If you watch this scene, how does it use emotion? First of all, what emotion do you feel? And why do you feel that emotion? How is it effective? So if you watch that video right now, there's different ways that this scene successfully uses pathos. It's a feeling of sadness, by the way, in that scene. And so how do we know sadness? Well, the background music, the different camera angles underwater and the surrounding environment, it's that feeling of losing control over a situation. The character's actions, meaning he's struggling, he's trying to find his friend, and his friend has drifted away into the ocean. The sound of his voice, he sounds worried. And then he also says the words, "I'm sorry." So it's that feeling of sadness overall through all of these examples. You want to find numerous examples, or you want to use numerous examples when you use the rhetorical appeals. So those are pathos. Logos, last rhetorical appeal, that's the logic. It's the brain. We went through the character, we went through the heart, and now we have the brain. Logos is logic, meaning facts, so just common knowledge that's, the sky is blue, for example. The overall message or purpose in what you're communicating or what you're analyzing. Anything with statistics, with data, and logical reasoning. Again, the sky is blue, for example. Or if it's advertising, they use something called buzzwords. Those aren't strong or good form of logos, but they are a form of logos because they sound logical. It's pure, it's natural, you have freedom, tasty if you try our product. Or also these ER words, not the best form of logos, but still it's a way they try to persuade through something that sounds like common knowledge or sounds like logical reasoning. Better, cleaner, longer, faster, stronger, wiser, things like that. Anything with a number or with a date, it's factual. Or sometimes fictional works, for example, sometimes they lack these. So the theme of a poem or the main idea of a song or of a story, it's not the strongest form of logos, but it's the message. It's the message, it's their way of reasoning to you and the audience. So these are ways to identify logos. So again, we've got another video break. Pause the video. Check out this commercial for toothpaste. Wonderful example of logos throughout this video. In fact, right here we already see one, 98, reduces plaque up to 98%. That percentage is that hard data they used to persuade. So think about how the commercial uses logos. And if you watch the video, we have a lot of examples. Quote, bleeding is the sign of gingivitis. There's a factual sentence there, a logical claim. Explanation of how the product works. It's real, that's how it works, so that's logos. There's a number, 12-hour protection if you use this toothpaste. Reduces plaque up to 98%, gingivitis up to 88%. You'll be, and we even have buzzwords here, you'll be healthier, you'll be stronger, your teeth will be healthier, stronger. Number one, recommendation. All these, and this last one could also be ethos because they're referencing professionals. So if there's a reference to professionals, because Colgate they're not scientists, they're a business. So they're referencing dental professionals, so that's also ethos, but it's factual research that they did. So they found some data to crunch numbers and to persuade. So why do we do this? Why does this matter? Well, first of all three rhetorical appeals should be used together. You don't want to guilt the audience into emotion only through pathos. That's not being an ethical communicator because you don't want to appeal to sympathy and that's it. You also don't want all logos because you do want the audience to care a little bit. You want the heart, you want the feeling, but not too much. So you want that balance. But you also want to show that you know the material, that you're trustworthy, that you're not just relying on others, so you need that credibility. All three of these are so important, but it also depends on the genre. You know, if you're writing a poem, I'm not going to find a lot of logos. I'm not going to find a lot of statistics and data. I don't want to because it's a poem. But if you're writing a research essay, you don't want a lot of emotion. You need to use a lot of ethos to build trust that you understand the subject, but you also need to show logos that you're showing factual information and data. So that's, again, why understanding genre conventions are so important, so that you know which rhetorical appeal should be used the most consistently out of all three. But all three are used regardless. Makes you ethical, makes you a stronger communicator. So understanding these assists in your communication and writing. As we move towards research writing, evaluating credibility, meaning ethos, helps you find good sources for your essay. It helps you evaluate what makes a credible source. Using these tactics helps you critically analyze information that you find on the web, that you find in your everyday life. We are in a digital culture more than ever now, and that's cool. It's a good thing. But there's also a lot of information that is fabricated and fake, and it's shared constantly. So you need to be aware of what you're reading, what you're sharing, what you're communicating, what you're sending out into the world. It helps you argue fairly, ethically, helps you understand different viewpoints than your own, and helps you just clearly practice communication skills, again, that you'll use in the class, but that you'll take away in other classes and in your everyday lives. If you'd like to continue, I have examples here of how to identify ethos, pathos, and logos per genre. So this is a poster, this is an image ad, this is an article, so that should be number 3. And this is a video ad. I'm not going to share these just so I don't want my screen to share the copyrighted information, or the information out there, but it's there. I recommend it. It's good to just get a little more comfortable analyzing all these different genres and how each genre has its own expectation with which rhetorical appeal maybe should be used the most. So take a look at that, and let me know if y'all have any questions about the rhetorical appeals of persuasion.